For the longest time, music was an exclusively live phenomenon. The technology to record or playback sound simply hadn't been invented yet, until Thomas Edison came up with the phonograph in 1877. This led to wider spreading of shellac records, which in turn led to the development of vinyl records in the 1940s. Vinyl remained the primary medium of music consumption until the 1990s, and since then, via some other mediums such as the cassette and the compact disc, or CD, streaming services are clearly the way for the majority to consume music. For example, the most popular streaming service Spotify has 406 million subscribers to date. However, there have been noteworthy issues with streaming services paying artists adequately for their art, resulting in alternative distribution methods being founded. One of the new methods are music-related NFTs. At the same time, vinyl is making a significant comeback alongside other physical music formats. Let's take a closer look, shall we? How does a vinyl record work? The vinyl disc itself contains a microscopic groove that spirals almost the entire diameter of the record in which the musical data, or the sound, is stored. The stylus needle of the record player's tone arm is laid on the groove, and the motor of the record player spins the disc, creating an electric signal while in contact with the stylus. This electric signal is then amplified and sent to loudspeakers, where the data on the record is replicated as sound. Vinyl records come in varying sizes, ranging typically from 7-inch to 12-inch records. This directly affects the playback length and quality, depending, for example, on the nature of the audio content and how tightly the grooves are spaced on the disc. The vinyl resurgence has been an ever-expanding trend in the recent decades, with peak sales reached in 2021 and projected again for 2022. The global vinyl market has gone so far as to outsell CDs for the first time since 1991. What could explain such a phenomenon? The listening experience itself differs quite radically from its digital counterparts in that the analog nature of vinyl provides the listener with a one-of-a-kind experience. Your vinyl record is unique, with all varieties of artifacts present on it. Pops, crackle, and hiss are all par for the course, and some vinyl enthusiasts have pointed out that these features are the details that make vinyl so beloved, as they give the format its special spin. If one wishes to have a perfect replication of music intended by the artist or studio, digital formats simply do a far more accurate job. It's the color that vinyl adds that friends of vinyl are after. Some characteristics of vinyl can easily be seen as shortcomings as well. Based on the principle of the format, the dynamic range, the frequency content, and the stereo image can all have difficulties to compete with today's digital formats. Not to mention the loss of volume and high-frequency content as the needle reaches the center of the record. The nature of vinyl also encourages a more involved experience with music. Vinyl discs need to be maintained if they are to be listened to, and one actively needs to switch out the records after the playback ends. Vinyl encourages active listening because the playback length of the records themselves are quite limited, especially compared to modern-day technology. A full-length LP can hold about 20 minutes of audio per side, and singles and EPs are much shorter than that. Size-wise, vinyl discs are quite large, and the record sleeves often hold extra content from the artist that one doesn't get with a digital copy. Gatefold records, for instance, allow artists to include bonus content, be it liner notes, artwork, or song lyrics that potentially couldn't have fit the packaging otherwise. Naturally, collecting vinyl is also a hobby as any other, and it's all about completing your collection. The extent at which each vinyl collector goes about their activity varies, but the perfect collection is the ultimate, albeit a quite unattainable, goal. Collecting vinyl also builds relationships through second-hand deals, and a similar music taste goes a long way in making friends.
The term NFT stands for non-fungible token. NFTs are tokens that represent ownership of digital assets, such as a song, photo, or video. The term non-fungible refers to the irreplaceable nature of these tokens. Whereas money, for example, is fungible, meaning that a €5 bill can be replaced with 5 coins each worth €1, NFTs are unique because there's only one of them. Another example. The famous painting, Mona Lisa, made by Leonardo da Vinci, is non-fungible. We know that there's only one original, and we know where it is. Because it is non-fungible, it is also more valuable. To fully understand the meaning of a non-fungible token, we must first look at the blockchain technology that might just be the weirdest concept for many people in recent years. The blockchain stands for a block of digital information that is stored in a chain of public database. I know this is quite hard to grasp, but let me open it up for you. The blockchain can be thought of as a public record of transactions, where the transactions are constantly validated through computers that keep an eye on the record. This is somewhat similar to what banks have been doing for the last 70 years or so. In other words, the blockchain is a way to verify things in a large group of people using advanced technology that creates trust and validity. What about NFTs? How are they related to the blockchain? Well, it's quite simple. NFTs and their authentic nature are based on blockchain technology. It's a way of verifying original NFTs and keeping track of the people who own them. Even though someone can always copy an NFT, blockchain technology allows us to track down the original piece and its owner. This allows people to invest money in a digital asset the same way some are willing to buy expensive physical art. It's always something to brag about if you are the owner of something original, right? There has been discussion about the benefits of NFTs from the musician's point of view, but the subject hasn't been researched thoroughly just yet. For example, the R&B singer-songwriter Sienna points out 3 main reasons why music-related NFTs are worth it. Firstly, fans can invest in musicians' careers much more efficiently compared to streaming their music from the most popular streaming platforms. Also, this makes it possible for fans to make money. Think of a situation where you find an up-and-coming band that you really believe in. Wouldn't you want to buy a song in the form of an NFT from them, in the hopes that they become successful and the value of the NFT rises? In a way, you could invest in an artist's career in a similar way you might invest to stocks in the stock market. Secondly, musicians can attach different kind of perks into their NFTs to make them more unique. For example, the famous rock band Kings of Leon released their new album as an NFT, but it also included 4 front row seats and a VIP experience at any Kings of Leon concert for the rest of the token holder's life. And finally, musicians can make much more money with NFTs. With NFTs, musicians have the opportunity to keep all of the money from the transactions and even collect more royalties every time someone sells the NFT to a new owner. To fully understand the potential of music-related NFTs, we can take an example from last year. The American rock band Kings of Leon made roughly $2 million in 2 weeks from NFTs only. It has been speculated that even the most popular artists would have to get quite a sizable number of streams to get the same amount of money from streaming services. It is also worth noting that the current purpose that NFTs serve from music fans is more conceptual than functional, meaning that fans are mostly paying for bragging and supporting their favorite artists, since people can still access the same music on their favorite streaming service. So, it's about collecting and owning something special, and of course, we cannot ignore the possibilities from the artist's perspective.
One could argue that vinyls and NFTs are in many ways similar to each other. Both formats emphasize direct transactions between musicians and consumers, or at least more direct than the monthly fee that people pay for Spotify. Therefore, both options are also a more direct way of showing support and fandom. NFTs and vinyls also share a similarity in that their production runs are limited. It is quite different from streaming services where music is in many ways more replicable and shareable. The ownership aspect also includes the possibility of value growth in time. In this way, NFTs and vinyls can be seen as a form of investment that hold resale value. Although these two formats have many similarities, there are also some fundamental differences. The most obvious difference is the digital aspect of NFTs compared to the physical form of vinyls. For some, NFTs might seem hard to approach due to their methods of using cryptocurrency and blockchain technology, and for others, vinyl records might seem difficult to deal with because they require other equipment to get the sound out of the record. Vinyl player, amplifier, and loudspeakers are all needed to play back records, not to mention that records take space and require appropriate care to handle. Although NFT music is a rather new phenomenon, many artists have already jumped on board. These artists range from well-known bands to lesser-known individuals. One of the things that make music NFTs different from vinyls is that, contrary to the resale of vinyls, musicians themselves can have resale royalties from their albums with NFTs. At the same time, NFTs could help realize a music distribution chain without any middlemen, so to speak. The funds a fan uses to buy NFT music from an artist go straight to the artist themselves. This could boost the income for some artists and give different kinds of control over their work. Comparing this to pressing vinyl, record companies even to this day essentially decide what music is released on vinyl, as bands have to send their demos to record companies to get evaluated if their music is worth releasing under the label's name. When vinyl was at its most popular, record companies had an even tighter grip over the music industry, as they were essentially the sole entity that could release music, minus of course self-published music. Music streaming platforms have become the least lucrative options for artists, as the payment models that streaming services employ are not very favorable for artists. It is worth noting that the blockchain technology and cryptocurrencies that these NFTs rely on are still environmentally hazardous. It seems that the huge potential that NFTs have for changing the music industry is still somewhat held back by these problems. However, we have to accept the fact that these technologies are still finding their place in our society, and many people believe in their positive aspects and possibilities. One could say that we might just be on the brink of something uniquely new for the ever-evolving music industry. As you might have realized, NFTs are quite complicated, and it's no wonder that there still are many people who oppose them. Some find their digital nature unreliable and feel that they can disappear in the bit space. However, vinyls can also break or disappear in the physical world. At times, it might be rather unclear if the discussion related to these forms is actually about the form or just about people's nostalgic or technophobic tendencies. There have also been recent cases of combining NFTs with vinyls in that once a specific music NFT is purchased, the customer receives the vinyl as well, or vice versa. In the end, one can ask, does any of this really matter? After all, each music format ultimately serves the same end purpose, and that is to bring music to the listener. Be it digital or analog, music isn't only for listening, it's also a collectible item and a representation of personal aesthetic taste. People tend to connect their identities to their belongings, and musical preferences are no exception. That's why people choose to listen to music respectively, either through analog or digital formats. Perhaps music format isn't as much about the format itself, but rather about individual preference. Maybe people shouldn't get hung up on music format, but cherish the fact that so many different formats of music exist in the first place.